I'm Richard. I work in IT as a solutions architect. My friends know me more as a petrolhead, a hobby engineer and a maker. This is the story of the ChaosMotorSport Buggy, my crazy multiple year endurance challenge. My love for engineering started very, very young. I had a bit of a habit of dismantling everything around me. And yeah, I loved sort of taking things apart, putting things together, making things, and it sort of grew with my love for cars and tinkering with cars and, that kind of thing. The Mark 1 Buggy was a bit like Scrap Heap Challenge. It was one of those things that somebody said to me, that's probably not going to work and you probably can't make that. When I started it, I was 18 for the Mark 1. I was, at the time, really interested in kit cars and liking the look of a kit car called a UVA Fugitive. And that was like a big open frame, usually a VW engine in the back. Yeah, great fun machines. I don't think there was many straight angles on it. It was sort of rack of eye construction, really. But it was a good test. It was just a sort of early pass, if you will, driven by kit cars. The big problem with the Mark 1 that I wanted to change to the Mark 2 was that it wasn't road legal. If it wasn't going to go on the road, it wasn't going to get built. The Mark 2A was entirely based on a Suzuki Swift. At the time, it was a good idea. Definitely wouldn't have stood up to it later on, but the early version was fine. Work-life balance, that's really important. The Buggy only really got worked on at the weekends. Well, when weather was good, possibly in the evenings, when I could sort of steal away some time. Basically, it's the family, it's, walking the dog. So I would steal away a few hours here and there in the evenings when the weather was good and work on it then. The main thing, I suppose, really is to have a very, very, very understanding wife. She knew where I was. I was in the garage. I was never down the pub because I didn't want to spend the money in the pub. I wanted to spend it on parts for the Buggy. It's fairly straightforward, family always comes first, no matter what. The Buggy is a hobby, and that's why it took six years to make the Mark 2. Lots of people have helped me over the years. The guys at Car Care, Chris and Steve, fantastic pair of guys, always bouncing ideas off them, some good, some bad, some crazy. A good sounding board, really.
Constant walks into the shop saying, I have an idea. And we think, right, get a pen and paper out.
What do you think of this? Yeah, we need a pad. We need a pad. There's no CAD for this. This is grassroots engineering.
Yeah, it was pen and paper, thrash it out. We got to the problem, resolved it, no problem.
Yeah.
And those guys in particular provided an astronomical number of parts for the Buggy in both the 2A and 2B versions.
When you see the size of the garage, you think, how on earth that's going to be possible? But
And also, this is going to take a while.
Yeah, it has been going a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Austin, over at Austin Walmsley's Fabrication, they've helped me a lot. They supplied all the steel for the Buggy. And they put up with me I used to put up with me on a weekly basis.
Richard turned up and he came in with all these beautiful swept stainless bends with the biggest blobs of weld stuck in everything together. So I made it perfect, as I do with everything. But I just couldn't deal with all these big gaps he came in with, leaving all this, and big black marks where he's tried cutting it and all this. But I thought he was out of his mind. So did everybody here. It's a big project, a lot to take on, a lot of problems to go wrong. There's a lot of work in it, but He could do it, yeah.
I sort of taught myself to stick weld originally. It wasn't really cutting the mustard. A friend of mine that I met through the sort of love of kit cars and being a petrol head, a gentleman, true petrol head and nutcase, Steve Slater, happened to be a welding instructor at a local college, Moscow College. And he basically taught me the simple stuff of how to do the basics of MIG welding, and then I joined one of his courses and did like a proper training course with him. And it was, so probably Steve that trained me the most, laughed at me the most, electrocuted me the most. So yeah.
I first met Rich from ChaosMotorSport when I had my second kit car, which was appropriately named Mary. So yeah, we met at sort of like meetings and things like that with kit cars and stuff. And then Rich actually came here to Majerska to learn how to weld. And from there we sort of hit it off, great mates ever since. We had problems with Richard being a blind arsehole, but it doesn't really matter. We got him round that, we got him welding.
It takes a lot of effort over 6 years to keep going. Lots of things changed. Life changes over 6 years. Things happen. So you're never quite sure what's going on. I was lucky, to be honest, that the project progressed at a fairly slow pace, but it progressed. It's one of those things, you just got to stick at it. It's perseverance, bloody mindedness, and a will to say, no, I will not be beaten, this can be done.
Personally, I'd have given up about 6 weeks in, because I'm just like that, but true grit has driven it forward for quite some time.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, but it'll be worth it in the end.
Why?
The first time we ever ran it, Stephen Slater was with me, and we ran it at Majerska. This is before it was even painted, so this is, just after we got the thing up on the correct shocks and everything else. Everything's great, gets transported there on a massive motorsports truck. It was just awesome, fantastic. Got it off the truck, fired it up, took it down the road for its first test, and it was a really long straight with a few little sleeping policemen, so speed humps effectively in the road. On the film, if you see the film, he sort of says, "Oh, what's happened? He's not coming back."
Okay. He's either going to back up or turn around because that goes out onto the big echoing car park where he's backing up. Oh no.
And then I came around the corner walking because I'd forgotten to put any petrol in it, and it only had a couple of ounces of juice in it, and it had got around the corner and run out of fuel, and we had to push it back.
The buggy was brought then for an open day here at the college, and I did a bit of a race round with it. We had a bit of a squeal of some tyres. Now, just tootling around at this at low revs, it's very, very smooth. It is an off-road buggy. It's rear-wheel drive. So let me just wind it up a little bit. Let's get it a little bit warmer. So as we build up the speed, so we're only doing about 20 miles an hour, but our engine revs are coming up. So now it's a case of flip it.
We took it on an off-road course at Majerska, and had an interesting session with it, going over a particularly large mound on the off-road course.
So this time, instead of going to the left, look to the right this time.
I'd been down that area of our driving track only a matter of a couple of days before. Been up and down that slope with several different styles of vehicles. Yeah, somebody had been with an excavator and dug a little hole at the bottom which I hadn't noticed.
that was right in my groin.
So I didn't have my harness tight enough, so there's a lesson to be learned there.
We've still got 4 wheels attached. We've still got 4 wheels. Oh. We've probably got a bit of... No, we haven't. You meant your steering wheel? The steering wheel. You mean the steering wheel?
And did manage to sort of bend the steering wheel as we hit the bottom. I bent it back and it still drove home no problems.
Oh man! Oh, what was it? I can't believe I bent that.
Around town, back roads, you know, lower gears, it was absolutely fine, no problems at all. It would never win any races, but that's not what it was designed to do. It was a fun machine, and from that perspective it worked great. The problem comes when you try to put the Mark IIA on the motorways, you know, and it just didn't have the horsepower to keep up with traffic.
I instantly thought the engine was going to be too small.
You did actually, yeah. Yeah.
It's been addressed.
Yeah, massively.
The 2B started life as purely an engine swap. So we were going to transplant a bigger engine, replace the Suzuki engine and gearbox, and then basically plumb in a new engine into it. The choice of engine was critical. I moved into a Volkswagen engine from a 2001 Golf GTI. It's been tuned and remapped and now puts out around, we think, around 210 brake horsepower. The knock-on effect is phenomenal. All the Suzuki components that were on the Buggy were just no longer of any use. So brakes, hubs, bearings, all gone. Everything had to change. So yeah, quite a major conversion.
When he hacked the back end off his project.
Yes, when the angle grinder slipped, I seem to remember getting the text message of that.
Oops.
It was definitely the point of no return, but we were all for it and just encouraged him even further.
Yeah. We did offer to bring an angle grinder with us and help, but...
No, it was too late by then.
It was all over by then.
It was too late.
So it's been fun, and I'm hoping that when we get this engine modification done to it and the 2Bs back on the road, that we're going to have lots more stories, because we'll be going a lot further afield and doing sort of trips and everything. This sort of project's never completed. I will always be tinkering with this car. Will it go to a Model 2C? Who knows, you know?
Where's it going in the future? Well, hopefully, if Richard gets his finger out, we'll actually get it back on the road. I'm looking for borrowing it for college open days and things like that, and maybe the odd buggy run, North Wales or wherever. So looking forward to stuff like that. Lovely guy, brilliant project, love being involved in it.
Made something that I thought, he's mad, this will never work, into something that, oh my god, he could sell that.
Well, yeah, no, it was a hell of a piece of kit.
Yeah.
It really was. Something extraordinary, really.
It makes me laugh because it still fits in that bloody garage.
True, it does.
There's obviously a timescale issue here because Mark III will, the V8 version, sorry, should I call it, will have to be finished before 2030.
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah. And then we'll worry about sorting out with all the electric and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, otherwise it's going to be the world's largest RC car.
Pretty much, but no, it has to be a V8 next time, definitely.
Yeah, fire breathing.
Absolutely. No holds barred.
Just wait for him to come around to say he's putting a bigger engine in it, making it a 6x6 wheel, something like that. Making something bigger and better, or if he goes on to aviation.
I think everybody should have a hobby. For me, this hobby, this sort of engineering of building a car, sounds really extreme, but it's, for me, you break a big problem down into small pieces, sort each problem out as you go along, and that's kind of how my sort of mentality with this whole thing. For me, I find it very therapeutic. Yeah, it can be stressful at times as well, granted, when things aren't working, but you've got to remember it's a hobby. It keeps the mind active, keeps you thinking, keeps you working on something. Everybody should have a hobby, not necessarily building a car, because that's a big project, but yeah, it's a hobby, it's fun, it gets you out, it gets you doing things, you can talk to people, like-minded people about it, and it's great. So yeah, absolutely, everybody should do something crazy once in a while, and this is just my little edge of craziness.